Hello and welcome back to part 3 of my ACCA SBL examination pre-scene analysis notes of the December 2024 sitting. This is for the Rodnim Co Events Company. My name is James, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe so you get access to all of my videos, and if you'd like a copy of my exclusive notes you can see above me which I'm going through in this video, just click the link in the description of this video and you can access a copy yourself. I'm delighted to also say I'm associated and affiliated with Astranti, where you can, again, click the links in the description, accessing mock papers, their own pre-scene analysis pack, and for pure transparency, as always, on the channel, if you were to click any of those links and purchase anything, that's where I'd be entitled to a small commission, which goes to supporting the YouTube channel. And as always, a massive thank you. I'm so pleased the notes are helping so many students out. So let's get cracking onto it, as we're going on to part 3 now. If you have any questions or comments, leave me a message down below and we can definitely help you out on that. So now let's get on to the events management industry key performance indicators. Again, you can have a little look through this in your own time, going through all the words, but the key bits are underlined in red that we have financial and non-financial performance measures on there. The key financial KPIs, the fee income growth and the operating profit margin. If you go down to page 10, that is where you'll see the fee income growth has actually been going up. So again, positive on there, but the operating profit margin is actually going down. So for your notes, KPI 2, they're actually falling short on, and KPI 1, they are achieving. Non-financial KPIs are also interesting about the tender success rate. On page 11, we're going to come on to it later on in the recordings, we only have a 45% success rate. So again, that has to be improving to actually increase the number of clients that we are successful with. And then in terms of client satisfaction, it doesn't get any better there, because again on page 11 we've got a net promoter score, and that indicates the retention rate, referrals, feedback, satisfaction, and unfortunately for Rodnim that has again been going down over the last 3 years. Lastly, we have an environmental sustainability KPI, and the key point here is that we've got waste management in there, water, energy. Elements of it we could be thrown at us on the exam day in the unseen information or in a requirement. And the key point for your notes here is that we don't actually have a manager or a partner who is in charge of the environmental or sustainability practices in their roles. Again, we're going to come on to that later on, but it's just something to note down. If it was to come up in any way, shape or form, those are the pros and cons in a nutshell. Fee income growth is the only one that's actually doing quite well. Operating margin going down, tender success rate pretty low, client satisfaction going down, and environmental sustainability, we've not really got any actual figures to go on, and we don't have anyone who is accountable, a manager or a partner on there. The next element we're given is the industry body, and this is the Institute of Events Organisations, the IEO. Again, you could refer to them as the IEO in your answer. The marker will pick up on that. Just indicate up at the top of your answer that the Institute of Events and Organisations, in brackets IEO, and every time they see IEO in your answer, they will know who you're referring to. They support the actual industry itself, and this is where the keywords for you to get down in your notes are about the quality, health and safety and environmental practices of all of its members by setting common technical standards. We're not told what those common technical standards are, and we're also not told if Rodnim is a member. This again could be possibly included on the exam day, but what I'm getting at here is if you get anything involving quality, health and safety, environmental practices, refer back to the industry body, potentially to actually understand best practices, gaining more information on it. It's really important. They've only given us a little chunk, and I think there's room for them to provide more on the exam day. We then get on to Rodnim's actual events as an overview and a bit more of a background of the Rodnim Events Company. And when I say company, that is actually incorrect, James. Well done there for the recording. They are a partnership, which, as we saw in recording it up at the top in the first paragraph, a partnership has unlimited liability on there. That if the partners, Safi and Amanda, actually were to rack up loads of debts or could have a major fine, something on those lines, they would be liable to pay that, one from the business's money, and then if they ran out of that money, it would be their own personal finances on there. And the key first line, Rodnim Events is one of the smaller events management businesses based in Holland. Do not make the mistake in thinking that Rodnim, because they're actually having sales of about $780 million on there, again that's later on in page 11, that is still technically a small company, and they're not part of the 74% and one of the 4 larger companies on there. Rodnim specialises in managing events for corporate and private clients, so no public, as we touched on before, and operates in that partnership structure. We know that they've been established for 6 years, 2 friends in Amanda and Safi, so they trust each other, they've known each other for a long time because they've previously worked together at an events manager for one of Harlan's largest events management companies on there. And they own the business equally 50-50. So they've got lots of experience they're deploying at the moment at Rodnim, and therefore the next final key sentence, we touched on it before about the cooperation and collaboration, that Rodnim does not have any formal or informal cooperation or collaboration arrangements in place with other businesses, as the partners wish to preserve Rodnim's independence. So that's where a key paragraph there, that they should be looking to band together with other small firms to take on the larger firms, and this is potentially, well, it is a missed opportunity there. If we come on to the organisational structure now, on the left-hand side, again, we've got Amanda and Safi, that partnership, 50-50, they're responsible for the strategic direction, but you could, again, link to hints here about potentially planning for an IPO. Remember, they're turning over 780 million, so that's a potential on there to ask the question about it. And then they could link into areas of the SBL syllabus like leadership structure, corporate governance, board structure, best practices, non-executive directors, executive directors. I think it's got a lot of rope on there to be testing a few different areas. We're then getting on to the ultimate or management responsibilities, where we have now, in terms of the strategic direction, Amanda oversees the entire events management program and Safi is in charge of the marketing and customer services. So you can see that in the structure, and we'll come on to it a bit later on. There are 34 full-time employees, so that's a reasonable amount of staff to lead and manage. And you can see that they all operate in a single office in Harlan's capital city, so could link into location for some of those events we touched on earlier. And we have 3 managers. You can see that we have Mirza, Dika and Jimmy, and that is their organisational structure on there. The key split between the 2 partners up at the top, A and B, on there, Amanda and Safi, and leadership and delegation will be needed for those 34 full-time employees by the managers and the 2 partners on there. Then we're given more information as to, well, what kind of background do these managers actually have? We've got Mirza, very settled in, very experienced, over 20 years, already been at Rodnim for 3 years. And then you've got Dika, who, for context, head of event delivery, okay, remember, £780 million dollar business on there, and is a recent graduate. So very inexperienced, but a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. Jimmy, on the other hand, a bit more that maybe you and I could relate to, is a qualified accountant and has been with Rodnim from the beginning. But then when we come on to how they've summarised some of the responsibilities and how it aligns to the management team, I went through it and went, imagine I was Jimmy on there, you know, you've got the usual financial control, bit of reporting, admin as you would expect, but he's also in charge of HR, IT, development. That is a lot of juggling of roles. And Dika as well, the recent graduate, very inexperienced. Events coordination, delivery, project management, risk management. That is a lot of stuff for a 22-year-old, along with Amanda, Safi and Mirza's. But notice, as I touched on before, no one referred to actually environmental or sustainable practices on there. That links into that non-financial KPI. There are other social factors involved with this, from a potential pestle analysis question, where Rodnim employs temporary staff to support events and when they are needed. So we're not given anything in terms of, say, training or service quality on there. This could link into actual trade unions perhaps. And that's where, to give us a bit more of a picture, the SBL team now have given us how the operations are actually processed for tendering and the different 6 stages. The key bits for you to understand and have into your mind as to just a picture is the planning, the control and the delivery of the events to clients. This includes arranging for this nice little diagram on the right hand side, step by step, for temporary staff to work at the events in areas such as security, hospitality and technical support. So that tells me, I mean, we've got different risk areas, especially in the technical support. What if the apps went down? What if the IT systems went down? Are we now relying on potentially temporary staff to keep the upkeep of that significant system for the business? Then we've got the process and how it's been developed and refined, and Rodnim is able to deliver consistently high quality events to all clients. So if this is the case, then why has the Net Promoter Score been dropping on page 11? It's been going down for the last 2 years. So they're saying they're providing high quality events to all clients following this process, that we have an event invitation, we outline the planning, we then have a detailed planning, so scheduling the actual program, the logistics behind it. And we're not really told who sort of drafts this, goes through the initial documents, the tender for the actual success. We have the sort of business planning with Amanda involved on there, but it's a case of something is going wrong in terms of who is really accountable and are there different overlaps in terms of who's doing what. We then have the event organisation, so this is the QR codes that we're going to be talking about on page 9, and the opportunity for those joint ventures and partnerships to help each other out and to maybe streamline some processes. We can look for synergies on there, leading on to the event delivery, and then post-event conducting a post-completion review, evaluating success criteria. Again, that's that sort of feedback loop from the clients and different social factors that clearly hasn't been implemented correctly because that NPS score has been dropping year on year. There is a reference to C Note 1 where you can see the process does not continue to this stage if the tender is not successful and the contract not awarded to Rodnim. So they get to the detailed planning, schedule the event, and I just said to myself, well, what about a feedback loop there as to why were they not successful? That is the point of when we get onto the 45% tender success rates, that is where they then progress from there and they complete the event. But something's been going wrong at that detailed planning or even before the outlining of the plan. So the initial documentation, the budget, signing the contract, something isn't going right there. And last but by no means least, that note 2, we're not given the reference where it refers to, but it's an important note nevertheless, that for private events, key thing for you to get down, do not overlook it. I think mistakes we made here, thinking that private events need to tender. It says it directly there, for private events, the same process is followed, although there is no need to tender. You simply meet the client, and then you work out if they are not engaged or not. Rodnim will not progress beyond the outline planning point again. So we are not told where note 2 actually refers to. I'm sure it's just a little point below, hey ho, but it's important on there because it highlights about not needing to tender for those private events, but we're not told which team member actually meets the clients as the role isn't clearly allocated in the pre-scene information. So again, sort of links into the profitability side of it, who has decided on the process, the allocation of resources, and these are the different factors that you need to consider. That's even before we actually get onto, as you can see down below, the other factors that go onto the information systems and the risk category. And that nicely takes us through our part 3 now of the pre-scene materials. I hope you found it helpful. There are a lot of details, more sort of the social, environmental and ethical factors that we've covered in this recording. Again, if you'd like access to a copy of my full exclusive notes, click the link in the description of this video and you can download a copy yourself. If you have any questions as you've been watching through, leave me a comment, I'll get back to you, and I'll see you on the other side now for our part 4 and to finalise the full exclusive SBL pre-scene notes. So thank you very much.